Okay, good morning, everyone. Still morning, I think. Yeah, excellent, good. Excellent. So I've only been here for about the last hour or so. So I kind of came in just before you started that last exercise. So I don't know. I've not been party to what you've been talking about this morning, but I sense there's probably going to be quite a strong connection and overlap. So today we're going to be talking about strategy, learning maps. I'll explain what a learning map is in a minute, and then the subtext to this is putting your people in the picture, which is what we do. It's what our company's all about. We're called Big Picture Learning. We help organizations to put their people in the picture. So I guess the problem that we help organizations solve is we've probably all been in these sessions where we're all enthusiastic, we've developed a new strategy, we've got a new vision, we've got new values, all these fantastic ideas that we've got that we're really enthusiastic about taking back to the organization. But try as we might, when we actually get there, we're faced with a wall of people who kind of either don't get it, don't understand it, can't really see the relevance of it, aren't particularly enthusiastic, or certainly not as enthusiastic as we were. And that was the challenge that we perceived 20 years ago when we started Big Picture Learning, that we wanted to help organizations overcome that. We wanted to get organizations to get their people as enthusiastic about their plans and their ambitions as the top leadership were, and really connect those two layers together. This isn't a new problem. I guess most of the people in the room have heard of balanced scorecards. I'm sure you use them day in, day out, KPIs. Where balanced scorecards came from was a book cunningly named Balanced Scorecard by Kaplan and Norton. The reason I'm mentioning this is because back then when they wrote the book, which is probably about 20 or 30 years ago now, what they found were a number of issues that I still think exist today. So I guess what I'm saying here is it's not just your organization, it's most of the organizations out at the minute struggle with these types of things. One of the first things they discovered that only 60% of organizations had their processes that were aligned with their strategy. Their processes were trying to do one thing, and strategically they were trying to do something completely different or very different, and there was a big disconnect between the two. They also found that only 30% of managers' objectives actually correlated and directly mapped across to the overall strategic objectives of the organization. But probably most worryingly, what they found is that only about 10% of employees actually understood what it was the organization was trying to do. So I guess intuitively we know, or we feel, that if our people don't know what we're trying to do, how can we get them pushing in the right direction? It makes our work a lot harder because we're continually having to monitor and measure everything that they do, and it limits that amount of discretionary effort that we can get from them because they're kind of confused themselves. So, and again, you've probably seen this sort of data before. Gallup do this survey pretty much every year, and the results don't change a great deal. In any organization, the majority of organizations, whether it's in the US or in Europe, these numbers tend to stay fairly static, which is we've got 30% of our people actively engaged, wanting to sort of do the best they can day in, day out. More than half of them are indifferent, and then that group, which I always think, what sort of people who are actively disengaged do? I think when you think about some of the behaviours of people who are actively disengaged, it's quite a worrying set of behaviours that we can probably map across to that. So this is a challenge. A lot of organisations are doing work around employee engagement. It's all the vogue at the moment. A lot of that work is, though, around making people happy. It's employee benefit schemes, it's reward and recognition. It's all the things that are nice to do. Yeah, we want our employees to be happy. But we believe, and I'm sure you do when you think about it, that engagement runs deeper than that. There's something more subtle, there's something more deeper than that we all want from our work. So we've developed, this is a tool or a frame that we've developed that works alongside the work that we do, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But we've developed a framework which we call our connections framework. And basically what this does is it looks at two different elements to what we all need, not just our employees, but we need as employees. We need to rationally, on the left-hand side, understand what our organization is doing. We need to understand why it's changing. We need to understand, what as an organization we're striving for, what are our goals, our targets, our visions. We need to understand how we're going to do it. We need to understand what our roles are. We need to understand whether we're actually making any progress towards that. And probably most importantly, we need to know, actually, as an organization, are we serious? Are we really up for this? Are we really up for the challenges and the effort and the energy that this is going to consume? So rationally, we need to understand that, but also I need to feel emotionally connected to that. I need to know that all of these things actually engage me. They make me feel that I'm actually positively contributing to the success of the organization. So we have we don't run this with all of our clients, and we use it in some situations. We'll help clients who want to use it to evaluate the work that we do for them. In others, we'll use it just as a standalone tool. We have a 24-question 24-statement pulse check that we give to our clients just to give them a dashboard, a scorecard of what's going on in their organization in relation to these areas. So, for many employees, we use this metaphor quite a lot. For many employees in organizations, the analogy that we often use is if you think about your organization as a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, wouldn't it be great if we could show people the lid of the box? Wouldn't it be great if we could show them where all of those pieces that they've got spread in front of them actually fit together so that they can start assembling them and start to make sense of what it is we're trying to do as an organization? So essentially, that's what we do. We help provide the lid of the jigsaw box that demonstrates or shows your people what it is you're actually doing as an organization. We haven't just thought of this in a garage in a back shed and just, rustled something together that we've come and sold to you guys. We've been working on this for 20 years now. It's a proven technique. It works. These organizations, and we'll be happily putting your logo on here shortly, are quite discerning, and we've worked with many of them on multiple occasions. So we know what we're doing, and we know this technique works. So essentially what we do is our whole raison d'etre, our purpose is about helping to change the way that people are engaged. We want to help turn strategy into reality. Ultimately, that's the acid test. If we can help organizations to take something off the page, off the PowerPoint deck, and into actual reality, and people doing that in every corner of your business, that's what we want to help you to do. We do that by bringing people together. We do a lot of stuff these days virtually, particularly in organizations like yours. What we're all about is bringing people together, very much in this sort of environment here, and helping people to have the conversations that they don't know how to have. I think you've been talking this morning with your speaker who I didn't actually see, but I sensed there was something there around how do we have some of these really important conversations? How do we start to have conversations about the business, where it's going, everyone's role in that, and starting to get people feeling excited and enthusiastic about that? And that's what our technique helps you to do. And typically, this is what we produce. We'll produce. We are big picture learning, so there's no mystique about what we do. We produce big pictures. Typically, we'll produce a visual metaphor of your organization, which is about 1.5 meters wide by 1 meter tall, so very big picture. And supporting that, we'll provide you with a raft of materials that really bring that image, that whole story, that narrative behind what it is you're doing to life. Through these sorts of scenarios. So these are all pictures of our real clients. These aren't simulated people who we've got to come and sit in a room and look enthusiastic. These are real clients engaging, working with our stuff, getting excited, getting interested, finding out about the business in new and different ways. So I'm just going to talk very briefly about why our approach works, or some of the key principles behind it. 3 key elements. So the first one is visualization. Visualization is, we're probably all familiar with the term "a picture paints 1,000 words," and it's true, isn't it? If you think about it, whenever we want to try and communicate something, it's so much easier if we can kind of show people a diagram, a drawing, an image. We use it in our PowerPoint presentations with data. We simplify big charts of data into graphs. But on a more complex level, we can actually transmit very complex and interrelated messages as well using visualization. Human beings are hardwired to see things visually. The first, if you think about it, when we're very small, the first books that we're given as children and how we start to learn about the world is through pictures. All of our first books that we get have pictures in it, because even at that early age, our brains can pick up signals from pictures that they can't pick up from words. So our brains are very, very attuned to visual information. 50% of our brain is devoted to visual processing. 70% of your sensory apparatus is in your eyes, and you can cut to a scene of an image and make sense of it much quicker than you can wading through a load of text. And I guess we all know that's why Instagram and Facebook and all these little memes that we get in front of us every day are so popular. It's a very, very powerful and efficient way of communicating. Now, when it comes to communicating, there's a very broad range of things that we can do, all the way from our PowerPoint slides at one end, where we just may show data and simple information, all the way through to the stuff that we do at this end, which is what we call compound imagery. I'm not going to go into the technical elements of that. That's not why we're here today. But this is a one-pager that we've developed just to try and help managers understand that there's a range of different visual techniques that they can use, because we like to help organizations not only to work with us to develop the big picture, but also to try and get more visual in all of their communications as well, because we want that legacy to carry on after we've finished working with you. So visualization, that's the first part of what we do and why we think it works and why we believe it works. The second part is this really weird thing called dialogue, talking to each other. How strange is that? And that's a really key part of what we do. One of the analogies that we often use when people are using our products, when they're using our big pictures, it's a little bit like, and I know it's quite contemporary, when you play a game at Christmas, when everybody clears the table, puts their phones away, ditches the iPad, puts the PlayStation to one side, and we get a board game out. And we're just there for each other, we're present. And that's a very key part of what we do, the whole dialogue piece, the talking to each other across the table and making sense of the organization. For a lot of organizations, the communication hierarchy is the other way around. If you can imagine, download is down here. We kind of spend most of our time downloading, transmitting information in a one-way format. And only a small part of it is dedicated to actually us together talking and generating collaboration. What this diagram is trying to illustrate is that what we believe is organizations should try and reverse that as much as possible and make their communications about talking to each other rather than just telling each other what's happening. And technology kind of compounds that problem, because we're very tempted to, send out email blasts, put things on the intranet, and all of these things have their value. But at the heart of it, people only change their mindset and their attitudes and their behaviors when they engage with people in conversation. I was going to run another poll, but I'm going to skip past that one, just in the interest of time. The final element of what we do is interactivity. So we've got the picture, we've got the dialogue. What we want people to do is not just be told why we're changing as a business. We want them to try and work out elements of that for themselves. We're probably all familiar with the famous proverb. I'm not going to read it out to you, but this for me is really, really true. If you think about the times when you actually learn most, when you've had the most profound learning in your career, it's probably when you've been doing something and working it out for yourself, rather than someone's just sat in a classroom and told you something or given you a sort of a model or a process to use. So we really try and encourage people to work as much out for themselves, and I'll explain a little bit how that works in a minute. So again, just building on that from a more technical perspective, reading information, lowest level of engagement, all the way up to what we do, which is activity-based learning. So how that manifests itself in the work that we do, so we have elements, the communication process that your people are going to be going through, which are gamified. It might be a quiz, it might be a matching exercise where we've got different strategic priorities and we've got to try and work out what priority order we would put them in. We're kind of thinking as we would if we were a business owner, rather than just being told what to think, and this is the right answer. We've got to try and work it out for ourselves. So our process involves a lot of actually interactive learning, which is important. So those three things combined together, there are many more, but they're the kind of heart of what we do. Visualization, visualizing your story, dialogue, some really active communications between people, between the facilitator who's going to be running this, and I'll explain how that will work in a moment, and interactivity, working things out for myself, mapping out, seeing how things add up and fit together myself. How that looks in reality, I've showed you some pictures of on the other screen, but slightly bigger here. We've got groups of people, sat in groups of around 8 to 10 people, that's the optimum number, interacting with this picture of your organization being the centerpiece, facilitated by someone who knows what they're doing, but someone from your organization, not from ours. So we will train your own internal facilitators to be able to run this process, which is not a formal training role. It's very much just being able to choreograph the timings and making sure that everything fits together. The materials are very self-directed. And at the end of it, feeling as though we've had 2 or 3 hours where we've really, really got our head around the business. At last, we kind of understand what it is this business is trying to do and why. And with a great opportunity for you to follow up in your teams, in your organization, in your functions, with some connecting local activities to the overall strategic picture that we've painted. So, just going to give you a really quick case study, just to reinforce that this isn't something that we've kind of just cobbled together for you guys. EDF is one of our clients who we work with now on 4 different occasions. We started with them in 2009. Our most recent project was about 2 years ago. EDF, I'm not going to read the slides out to you, but basically faced a challenge that so many organisations face. We're a conglomerate. We've come together. We've brought lots of different constituencies together. Feels like loads of different organisations. How do we get them to feel like one organisation? How do we actually feel as though we've got a consistent and common set of values and a common, consistent set of ambitions and goals? So we work with them. This is the kind of evolution of the visual side, and I'll explain where we're at with your image in a moment. But evolution from a very simple sketch of an idea. At the time they were, this was their second map, which was just post 2012 Olympics. They also did one before this, and there's a lot of links and connections to the 2012 Olympics because they were one of the lead sponsors. But anyway, the final product, the final image ended up looking like this, which was, again, I'm not going to try and explain this to you. This is their story. But so we got to that point. We developed the picture for them. And then all of the support materials. So all of the interactive elements that I talked to you about, jigsaws, cards, matching exercises, discussion cards, the facilitator guide itself, which is what the facilitator uses to run the session, and a whole load of other interactive facilitation materials, really to bring that whole story to life and make it coherent and meaningful for the organization. This is some of their pictures of their people actually using it. This is a really grainy image. I apologize for that, but it's the only one I've got, which is actually what they also did with the picture afterwards is they put it in all of their briefing rooms. So whenever people go into team briefs or discussions after they've done their sessions, local initiatives or business initiatives or corporate initiatives were all able to be kind of positioned or put into context using this big picture of their organization as well. So really, really grasped it and embraced this whole process. And what were the results? So these are some of the results that we delivered for EDF. So this was the post-event survey. These were the questions we asked people as they left the room or just afterwards. So these are all favourable, and anyone who's done any training and development, particularly with 14,000 people, which is globally as well, which is very difficult to get a consistent set of results on. We were really pleased. They were absolutely delighted, and as I said, that's why we've worked with them on 4 different occasions now. So that was the actual scores or the results that we achieved actually as the evaluation. But the other reason they were doing this was because of their employee opinion survey, which again, for many big organisations, is a big driver of why they reach out to us, because they've seen a gap or a need. So looking at their actual employee engagement figures, I believe strongly in EDF's ambitions. We got a 9% increase on them for that. Actual belief that the executive team were competent and had a strategic, coherent message, again, up 8% on that. Only 2% on proud of where I work, but when we look at the sort of UK norms, because the survey they used was benchmarked against other comparator companies in the UK as well. Again, significant uplifts that they achieved through the work. Now, again, I'm not going to take all the credit for that. One of the challenges with doing this type of thing is there are obviously other things going on in the organisation at the same time. But they made a direct correlation. It was not us. They made this correlation between the work that we'd done with them and the uplift that they'd had. This was the exec team themselves. This was the whole management team of EDF Energy UK who we'd worked with, who were absolutely bought into this whole process and completely committed to it, which is, again, a key determinant of this type of thing, as I'm sure you can imagine. Okay, and the other nice benefit, or the other nice spin-off from that is awards, and our clients frequently put themselves in for awards, and we will put them in for awards, and we'll put ourselves in for awards, and these were the awards that EDF won on the back of the work that we'd done for them, which we're always proud to bask in the reflected glory of our clients, because this was their work as well, not just ours.